So we're back in session for May 20th. We started the meeting at 5 o'clock tonight because we were working on an evaluation. And now we'll begin the regular meeting. So let's stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And old business.
Yes, I was asked to investigate when the withdrawal period was at SST. It's actually October 1st. Okay? And there was a question about premium holiday proportionate share, and I have attorney information which we'll discuss in non-public session. Okay?
Okay. And any other agenda revisions? I think there was one, right, Michelle?
There is one, NRT unfortunately is not able to come this evening.
And then minutes for public minutes of April 23rd, 2013, if we could review those. Anybody have any changes to those? I had just one thing on page, section 9, public input. I don't know if we want this in the minutes or not, but I think something was mentioned that said we might get a summary report of which lines the additional funds went into. Do you remember that discussion?
I do, I remember that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't remember that, so.
What was this again?
Somebody from the audience from the public had asked us about the money that we had increased our budget by at the deliberative session. And they asked us where we were spending it.
Oh,
And we had said that right now there was, the money had been put in places from the MS-22, and that might be helpful for everybody to get a copy of where the funds went.
Okay.
So I just thought if it was in here, we might remember to do it versus.
And then we can do it for the next meeting.
For the next meeting, Tuesday.
I didn't have anything else with those minutes. Nobody else?
can she talk?
Of course.
There was something that I think was taken out of context for what I had said, so that's
Oh,
why,
okay.
if that's okay.
Sure, no.
Okay, sorry. So on page 3 where it says Angela O'Connell suggested using Rosetta Stone for languages in middle school, I had suggested looking into it as an opportunity for languages throughout elementary, because that's what Brentwood does, is an elementary, or a similar tool. So I didn't want that to come across that I was suggesting use that instead of a language instructor. So-
Okay.
So that was my concern there.
They actually have a K through 12 program available.
They do have a K through 12 program available, but Brentwood
That's your-
uses it for the elementary children. And I was just saying that that might be a bridge, if you will, to a middle school instructor.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So we can change that up a little, so.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Then motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we are on to superintendent's report. I hope I'm on the right one. I think I'm looking at the revised one, Michelle, but if I go off tangent, let me know.
Actually, before my agenda, my presentation on the agenda,
Oh,
we're going to have Bridget.
preschool, yes, sorry, I missed that on the agenda.
So Bridget, where would you like to sit? Would you like to sit here now?
I'll sit here.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Bridget Connolly. I am the preschool teacher over at the Ellis School. And we just wanted to bring some new information to the table so that you guys were aware of what was happening. So please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions as we go along. So the topic of today is talking about the least restrictive environments, environment requirements and data reporting for preschool, which is seeing a little bit of a change currently. So the Office of Special Education is putting in new requirements to measure the educational environments for children ages 3 to 5. So it states that placement decisions regarding a preschool child with a disability who is served under Part B of IDEA must be determined based on the child's abilities and needs as described in the child's IEP. State educational agencies and LEAs should engage in short and long-term planning to ensure that a full continuum of placement is available for preschool children with disabilities. So that's just coming from the Office of the Commissioner. And the OSEP requires new measurements for reporting this data on educational environments for children aged 3 to 5 with IEPs. So that's where the change is shifting for us. So the question is, what are the continuum of settings for special education? So similar to our school-age children, there's a range of placements that we have to choose from to get the appropriate setting for a child. These go from least restrictive environment to most restrictive. So we have a regular education childhood program, which is where at least 50% of our students are in the class are children who are not eligible for special education. We refer to them commonly as typical students. The home setting, which is selected if the children receive special education and related services in the principal residence of the child's family or the caregiver. PowerPointing. Service provider location, which is selected when a child receives special education and related services in a service provider's location like the speech therapy office, the OT gym. Special education program, which is a public school that has less than 50% of children without disabilities. Three to 5 separate school, which are approved special education day programs, and 3 to 5 residential facilities, which are very, very rare, but they're state-approved programs that have private residential special education programs. So those are kind of the gamut of choices that are allowed for children who are aged 3 to 5 that qualify for special education services.
So Bridget, is OSEP a state agency or a federal agency?
OSEP is a,
It's an agency under the U.S. Department of Education. It's the Office of Special Education
Okay. At
Programs.
the federal level, okay.
so currently, all of our preschool students with special needs are enrolled in what is referred to as the Fremont Preschool Program, which is designed as a 3 to 5 special education program. So instead of having all of the choices that we just went over, we're really only offering one choice. And as a result, not all of our preschoolers are currently receiving their education in the least restrictive environment. So indicator 6 is being reported for the first time during the 2013-14 school year, and it will evaluate our performance by looking at the percent of children ages 3 through 5 with IEPs who are attending a regular education children program and receiving the majority of their special education and related service in the regular ed childhood program, and comparing that to the percentage of the same population that is in a separate special education class, separate school or residential facility. So they're really just now going to be monitoring us, which they haven't been so consistent about over the last couple of years. In order to provide our students with a continuum of service, we need to really rethink how we deliver programming. So in order to meet these regulations, it's actually a pretty easy fix. So we can provide what's called a 3 to 5 special education program for 2.5 hours a week, 4 days a week, 2.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. We have to meet the requirements of program approval, which we already have. We have to either have a ratio of 8 students to 1 teacher or 12 students to 1 teacher and 1 assistant. And more than 50% of the students need to be on IEPs. Then we can provide a 3 to 5 early childhood program for 3 hours, 5 days a week. The requirements there are that there is no population cap, but we all agree that best practices would be to max it at 15 students. More than 50% of the students must be typical. And then we could also provide a service provider location, and when appropriate, a home and private placement are always available. Unusual, but available. So with these changes, we would be providing an IEP-driven continuum of services within the Ellis School and meeting the indicator that is now being measured. If it is appropriate for students, sometimes we get students who are a little bit more significantly impaired who would benefit from a fuller day, a longer day, so they could come to school for the special ed program and get more intense services and support, and stay on for the afternoon program and get a little bit more social opportunity, practicing a little bit more functional skills in a less tight environment. And then with these implications, overall Ellis School enrollment is likely to increase because the regular education early childhood program requires that we maintain a 50-50 ratio throughout the year. So that would be a shift for us from the last few years. The regular education childhood program does not need program approval. It only needs to be connected to a curriculum, which we currently have. It's called, we call it two things, creative curriculum or teaching strategies gold. So we're all set with that regard. And then we reduce the likelihood of the district having to place a student in a community preschool program in which we would have to pay tuition, we would have to pay the service providers, we would have to pay transportation and mileage. And finally, placement in the Fremont preschool program ensures that students receive a high-quality early childhood education. Yes, but you know what we actually were missing from this? Was that extra part about the preschool operations, the current day-to-day preschool operations that we put in.
It's not on that one.
Nope, but I could give you, if somebody could make me photocopies,
I can't see
because
that.
I do think it's pretty significant to include.
So is this something we need to implement for next year?
Yes.
Yeah, we would want to implement it pretty as soon as we
have
can.
it.
I think we have it.
You do?
I
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
So
do.
John, don't worry about it, because I can read it from
We
mine.
have all,
Is there work
Yeah,
getting people money?
Is it, how will it impact
The day-to-day operations,
oh,
yeah.
where we have that, yeah.
That's okay. No big deal. So this is kind of the most significant for you guys to kind of know how it would look every day. So we would still have 2 integrated preschool programs like we have right now. We would have a morning special education program and an afternoon regular education program. So in the past, we have called the morning program our 3-year-old program. It has only been for children who are 3 years old, typical and non-typical. And in the afternoon, we've had a 4-year-old program, which is for our typical and non-typicals turning 4. Now it would be called a regular education program and a special education program. And it would be open to all children 3 to 5. So it would be likely mixed age, which isn't so significant, and it's fairly common in most preschool settings that there's that crossover. The placement, the change that they're looking for is primarily going to be reflected in how we report the term placement in NESIS, which is the program we use to report to the state. And then the last thing is that staffing numbers will remain the same, so there will continue to be 1 teacher and 1 assistant in the classroom, so there will be no financial impact to the district with this change. So,
Would it still be a lottery system for the typical students? Oh, it would, so not every typical student would be able to.
no, we just went through the lottery, and we started at a good, safe number, because anytime a student turns 3 within Fremont, who is already qualifying for special education, we're required to provide them with preschool. So we have to make sure our numbers balance out. That's always been the issue. So we started out at a good safe number, and we still have 11 kids on the waiting list for next year. So hopefully we'll be able to take a few more in the fall when we feel a little bit more secure, but 1 or 2. Yeah.
And that's 11 3-year-olds?
No, it's mixed.
3 to
It's a
5.
mixed group, 3 to 5-year-olds.
And they're the typical.
They're the typical community members from town.
So the morning program that says special education program, it would still be the 50-50 mix? Both programs would be? No.
The morning
Just the
program would require that there be more students with special needs.
Okay.
And the afternoon program would require that there be less students with special needs, so that you're getting that continuum of a more restrictive environment and a less restrictive environment.
How many kids are in each program in the morning and afternoon?
It varies, but we cap out at 12 for the morning program, and we would cap out at 15 at the very maximum. That number makes me a little nervous for the afternoon program. It would depend on who the kids were. 15 4-year-olds is, especially with swimsuits.
So we might see, if I have it accurate, we might see like, because of the afternoon mix, we might see a slight increase in tuition paid to the school.
Correct. I mean, if we were to find out we only had 2 students with IEPs first a year, we could take 10 kids with tuition, you know what I mean, and still have space. So there is a little bit more flexibility than we've had in the past.
That's good, because that was
I
always a
agree.
problem. Before, if we had 2, we'd only take 2 community kids.
I agree.
And now we can,
Yep. Yeah, so we get tuition and increased enrollment. And we get the kids in to Ellis as early as possible, which is always the best case scenario.
Great, thank you.
excellent. Very good presentation.
Thank you. So we'll put this in motion then for September.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Would you like me to begin?
Yes, please.
All right. This was been an interesting couple of weeks. I did include a lot of information for you in my report, but basically just wanted to quickly summarize my concerns for the renewal of the minimum standards for school approval.
Right.
They do come up for renewal every 10 years. It just so happens that with this 10-year renewal, the commissioner is taking the opportunity to make sure that connections to the Common Core are made, and that she's looking at competencies, even for the elementary students. But the most significant one is that they're trying to implement that all K-8 schools have to be broken down into an elementary school and a middle school.
Oh, okay, that was my question.
And they both have different sets of requirements. The one that concerns me is the middle school has the requirement
Right.
of a family and consumer science teacher and a technical education teacher, which we all knew as woodshop. And that they're no longer going to be offering or requiring these courses at the high school level. They're shifting that down as a middle school mandate. They also are saying that technology portfolios will be from grades 3 to 8, not K to 2. So that I'm okay with, but I am concerned for a couple of reasons for us, is that one, we don't have the space for either a classroom with a whole kitchen set up, because you have to have multiple multiple stoves,
Right.
and we have absolutely no space for a wood shop.
No.
So if we had to do something like that, it would require a modular at the very least to do, because we literally, we do not have any space in the school.
So they're saying that, I mean, it used to be, if you want to have a middle school, you had to meet certain standards. You had to have a principal, you had to have, the science lab and all this other stuff. And we didn't have that, so we were considered a K through 8, not an elementary or middle school. Now what they're saying now, my understanding is that even though we're K through 8, we still have to provide those to get certified.
This is what's being proposed.
This being was proposed.
Mhm.
I mean, okay.
So it's.
So there,
Four
I'm
Saints,
sorry, but there, it's all K-8 schools.
Right.
Will be divided into an elementary school and a middle school, so
Right.
we'll have two schools.
So the four Saints into that elementary in middle school.
And it's not that I don't value family and consumer science and what it can offer, or, wood shop for kids. It's just literally, it's a matter of space and finances. I don't know where or how we would do that.
The other way, there's a couple of things. Now, is this being done by the legislature or by
It's
education?
the State Board of Education,
Okay.
and so
Is there a comment period?
there is a comment period, and it's going to be in August,
All right.
over the summer.
Oh,
And so, a lot of people are upset at that it is over the summer. So I will keep you posted, but as soon as that comment period opens up, I think we should put in a request that either, okay, if you require this, then give us building aid to do it.
Is
No, that
this
would-
something that we can outsource, like, could we outsource, say, to SST and bus our kids there for these?
I don't
trips?
think they have the space either.
Well, I mean, if SST offers the wood shop, or if they offer, I don't know if they do, I'm just saying somebody that offers it, is it something we could outsource and just bus the kids over for the classes? Could we offer, if Sanborn Middle offers them, can we bus them to Sanborn Middle and outsource the
I'm
tuition
sure-
for those two classes?
I'm sure that there are lots of possibilities we could explore, and that would be one of them. But it's still an increased expense, and these regulations go into effect fairly soon. So, did I put in exactly when?
January 2014.
Huh?
Final adoption to January 2014.
I think the problem is that every small school
It's
district,
the middle of a year, we've already.
every
budgeted.
small school district is gonna have a problem, because one, they didn't budget for it, number two, most small school districts don't have the space, just like we don't.
Mhm.
And I think they're nuts, to be honest with you. This is my opinion, I can express my opinion, I think they're nuts, I think they're clueless, they have the slightest idea what they're doing. And to think that they can suddenly impose these things starting next January, when we haven't even budgeted for it, so which means we have to take money from something else, possibly lay off personnel to hire, or transfer personnel, or do whatever we need to do, in order to implement this is just absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
And
number
it's
one-
irresponsible in there, it's irresponsible and completely unthinking on their part. And
How long has this been in motion, Michelle?
Just a couple of months,
Oh.
that's what I
Oh,
don't
really? Oh, it
understand.
hasn't been
And so what
This
happens
is-
if we're not by January, what happens?
I
We
don't know,
get
I mean, whether
certification as a
they,
middle school?
they can hold up your
And what does
certificate,
that
your
mean
school
for us?
approval. You don't get money from the state.
we don't even have a line item for some of these foods. I don't think we even have a line item on our budget to pay for this stuff.
I
Can I
think,
ask a couple of technical questions? Family and consumer science, is that like what I knew as home ec or selling class? Okay, gotcha.
it also includes some personal finance,
All right.
health issues.
Have any other schools our size mentioned how they might be addressing this? Do you know?
Interestingly, the schools that I've heard from are the ones that have these programs at the high school level. And the people are not certified to teach middle school, so they're very uncomfortable now because they've got these teachers. Is the state gonna let them be grandfathered in to teach middle school? There are all kinds of questions. We're not the only ones that are upset.
No, we're
So,
not.
but the
We're not.
reason I bring it to your attention is that I will be drafting a proposal for you to add, edit, whatever. And I think we should jointly send it to the State Board of Education that this is unfair to do this to us in the middle of a year that's already budgeted. There's no way to change that.
No.
And building aid right now is $60 million for the whole state.
I don't even think we can build, though.
Probably not.
I mean, the only place we can go is up.
If we can.
Right.
You could put a middle school up, you could.
You put a second floor in the middle, yeah, but what's how expensive that is?
Oh, I know that, but I'm just saying in terms of regulation, you can't put an elementary school, you're not supposed to put, K2 is it? You're not supposed to put on the second floor or the basement.
I can't imagine you could put wood shop up. That would probably have to be down.
We'll have to.
Well, we
Or
can't,
modular.
we definitely can't do building planning tonight, so.
Right.
I think I would like to see your draft, Michelle, so we can agree
And
with
as
you in
this
concurrence.
becomes fleshed out more, I will definitely keep you posted.
Will the state give us a, I mean, if it goes in effect January 2014, they won't come down right then. There must be some sort of period that we'd have to plan for that, right?
I would hope so.
To be honest, my thinking is this, I think we should talk to our lawyers, I think we should talk to other school systems and see if we can file a suit under section 128A, which says that the state cannot require any more mandates unless they're willing to pay for it. And I think that would be one route to go and ask for an injunction, if these come into place, and ask for an injunction against these plans until it's heard before the Supreme Court. Because if they want to do it, I mean, it comes out of another pocket, it's still tax dollars, but it shouldn't increase our tax rates here. And that's my thinking. And I think if these do come, I think we should be in touch with our lawyers and talk to them about, and joining other school systems and filing a class action suit.
Well, I only brought it up to make you aware,
Yeah, I
and
know.
that we have to
Let's
go
not raise
forward.
That's it, that's all I'm saying.
Tar and feather these people.
Michelle, as a educator, do you think it's better for it to be at the middle school level or the high school level?
I think it is, from an educational standpoint, I actually think it is better to have it at the middle school, because children, the research shows that kids make the decision to drop out in middle school. And that for those students who are struggling and want to drop out, having that experience in kitchens and wood shops, it helps them stay in school. So, yes, if we had the money, if they'd given us time, literally, the first time I heard any of this was at an April meeting at the Southeasters. And, now they're just moving. And at that point, we were led to believe that this was going to be a year-long process. And then I find out that they're going to try to push this through for a January date. So that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, and we'll draft a proposal.
I mean, we did have it when I was going to school in junior high, it was called junior high back then. And actually, because we took drafting with it, and it went along well with the math with the geometry we were learning. It was really, I mean,
We could connect it to CAD programs. I mean, there's a lot you can do with
it goes with art, because you're looking at perspective when you're drafting stuff, it's really good.
But again, to drop it on us in the middle of a year that's already budgeted and passed is unfortunate. All right, the waiver, this is unbelievable. We're still waiting for word from the federal government, but the commissioner has said to the federal government, we're not going to change anything more in our plan. And so either approve it or disapprove it and let us know. So we're still waiting.
So did she release the AOIP?
No, she did not. Which was totally against what we were told. So I don't know, maybe she has good reason to believe we're going to get it. That's all I can hope for. I did attach here the new details on the waiver itself. You'll notice that implementation of the new teacher effectiveness model, they pushed it back for implementation to 2015-16 school year. Smarter Balance Assessment is going to take place in the spring of 2015. And we now have to participate in what's called quality performance assessments. And we're going to be assigned to a cohort of schools that have to go through regular training on this. So it may mean that John and I have to be out of the building like one time a month to go to these trainings. But they're insisting that everybody do this. So my last item is that my recommendation to replace the social studies teacher. When I budgeted not to include replacing Mr. Go when he retired, it really was a forced choice because I had been asked to level fund the budget. I believe that the community supported us in putting back the position, the funding for the position back into the budget, and the voters approved that. Now that the funding has been restored, I would recommend replacing Mr. Go with a teacher that's certified in social studies, and I'm requesting that the board approve this position so that we can post and start the interview process.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. One, you know, at the deliberative session, I think there's only 90 people at the deliberative session. So it wasn't a significant proportion of the voters. Now, too bad more voters didn't come. So to say, so I don't know whether, so there was a certain proportion of people who approved the increased funding, but I would say it was the majority of the town. When they voted for the budget, they had a choice between the budget that was presented and the default budget, which was higher. So obviously they voted for the budget that was presented. The other thing that I just, about a social studies teacher, and what my concerns are is I don't particularly care about what the person's personal political views are, but I also know that very few students in college these days get anything at all regarding American history or any decent teaching regarding American history. And in many schools, social studies have been used to push things like global warming, homosexual marriage, and things like that. I would hope, yes, they have. What does it have to do with? But also what I'm saying is, whatever. Let me finish my statement. All I'm saying is that whoever we choose to be the social studies teacher, that they understand that it is not a platform for the political views, that it is, you know, that they are to present all views regarding all subjects. I mean, a good teacher in this regard, you wouldn't even know what their political stances are. You know, whether you even know they're liberal or whether they're conservative because of the way they present the material. And, I mean, I've seen the way material is presented in other school districts. And so, I mean, I just would hope, I mean, I certainly would support hiring a social studies teacher. So I think it's an important subject. I just do have concerns about the way some school systems are presenting social studies. And I know that you would take that into consideration.
Right. Can I ask, do you have any concern about the way that our school system has presented?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, well, if a concern like that would be raised, then that's an issue for supervision.
Right.
And we do monitor our teachers and we take care of issues as soon as they occur.
Right.
So I would hate for that to be a consideration in this discussion.
I'd like to move to approve the request for hiring a social studies teacher.
Second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. He said aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, that's all that I have now.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw that flexibility waiver. Oh.
Subcommittee reports. Policy committee, we have not met. The last meeting, we were doing evals before the meeting, and that happened tonight instead. So at the next school board meeting, we'll be meeting to set more to review more policies. That's our update. Budget committee?
Budget committee hasn't met. They had a first meeting, but I was elected, so.
Okay. Negotiations committee? We haven't met yet either. Board of Selectmen's meeting?
Yeah, I know the request was for me to meet with them, talking about the emergency management plan, which is something I need to do, and I will be looking at.
Okay. PTA?
PTA, they had Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. It went quite well. They're in the middle of planning field day. This past weekend, they had mother and son bowling, which was really nice. And they're also sponsoring the Lego League, along with the board. And I think they're fine. And
When's field day?
field day is the 14th.
I know that's a big one, trust me. I've worked it many years.
Yeah.
And I would like to just say, Madam Chairman, that there'll be a 1-hour delay as typical
Okay,
tradition.
yeah.
So the buses will deliver the children to the field and then bring them back from the
So
field.
field day will be at the fields again this year?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Professional development, I don't think we've had a meeting, right, because the program is approved by now, right? And curriculum committee, you did have a meeting, right?
Oh, yes, oh, no, we
Yeah.
didn't actually.
Oh.
We had to, well, we did, we had to schedule it for 6:00.
Oh,
We had 6 staff members and they
Okay.
didn't show up and the community leaders, so it
Oh.
didn't seem appropriate.
I spoke with a couple of people in the committee, they just said this is just a busy time of year, and they just couldn't, just things came up, they just could not make the meeting.
so it's not falling apart, it's just,
No.
It was just a bad time.
okay. So that's June 11th, the next
Yep.
one? Information items, business administrator's report, photocopier bid.
I've got my report up here. First part is on the financial statements. I've just provided for you these, the listing of items that are not actually encumbered as purchase orders, but we know that they are going to hit our balance of, current balance of $147,000. Again, revenues are tracking in fine. We've done a reconciliation with the town's payments.
Can I just have a quick question?
Yeah.
The retirement buyout. Do we have, I mean, I know we budgeted, I think this year for the $10,000 for the buyout, but did we budget also for the FICA? I don't think we did, that's something we need to keep in mind in the future.
Oh, yeah, I did cover it for 13,
You did?
14. Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
But yes, it was overlooked.
I mean, it's always been, we didn't even budget the full amount in the past, so.
Yes,
We
it
were
has
crossing
been-
our fingers and hoping people didn't retire.
It has been covered in the 13, 14
All
budget.
right,
Yeah.
all right, good.
And again, federal grants, they're tracking well. You know, I'm getting those reports in by the 10th of the month. Are there any questions on financials before I go to the next item? If not, next item is just a small item, but it is actually good news. We did a 6-cent food service validation review. This is the first year that the feds are giving additional 6 cents on our federal reimbursement for school lunch program. And essentially the state came in, we were picked from a random pool, and they did an audit, and we passed. I included a copy of their report, so they're pleased with how our program is being run right now with Cafe Services. No, there are no questions on that. I'll go to the last item, which is the award of the photocopier and printer bids, in which we engaged specialized purchasing consultants last fall to come in and do an assessment of what we had for existing copier and printer inventory in the district, look at what copy counts were, the volume, and matching up the right type of equipment in certain areas of the school where you had high volume or even lower volume. So the good news is that they have, and Jason and I have been working with them since last fall. So they've come up with Konica Minolta Business Systems actually came up with lowest bid for covering both replacing photocopy equipment with a a brand new fleet. This is new, not reconditioned equipment too. And also for them to be able to service the printers, the desktop printers. They actually are a pretty solid company. We're talking, been in New Hampshire existence for some 30 years, so they're going to be here for a while longer. And the bottom line is really that it's, the annual lease payment will be $3,573 lower than what I had budgeted for in 13-14. I just put the same amount in 13-14 and basically told them that that's our goal, or under, okay, not over. So I'm pretty happy with it. This sheet, this summary sheet, I included for you with it in detail. If you've got questions, I'll entertain questions. But that is the amortization schedule that their office prepared for us. So you can see where this is the actual lower payment, year one. So if there are any questions.
No, my only question is, do we have to read this whole thing to vote on it?
No, the heart of it, actually the heart of it, yes, I know you get into the UCC code and all that. The heart of it is that you're giving the authority for the superintendent to enter into this agreement, and this is actually going to be your lease debt over the next 5 years. That's really what the board needs to understand and what that dollar amount is.
Where does this come out of the operating budget?
This actually is in, there's a piece in the SAU under photocopiers. It's
Okay.
under like an object 5430.
So it's in,
And also in part of John's, right.
so it's in the actual operating budget?
Yes, it is.
It's not just in the balance sheet or,
No, it's,
Okay.
it's definitely in the operating budget, yes. This was a raise and appropriate,
okay.
which is kind of why your language is so extensive.
So should we read this and vote on it? or-
Can't they say can't I just say something like, the board makes a motion to authorize the superintendent, as stated in the
The
motion?
vote to be adopted.
The vote to be
Right.
adopted,
Right,
or something.
yeah, that is absolutely fine.
And
Okay,
just,
so-
so Sue will know to take these
Yeah.
words exactly.
Yeah.
So the motion that I'd like to entertain from one of the members is just to authorize the superintendent to execute and deliver a tax exempt lease purchase agreement with this agency as presented to us this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Now, does anybody have any questions or discussion on it?
I was just surprised at the number of copies, we're looking at 1 million some odd copies, I was like, wow. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That includes the SAU office, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you, and Sue, what I'll do is I'll send you this
You
issue.
have to,
I got
we'll
you,
have
yeah.
to vote, if you guys are all done with discussion.
Save
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue on with relative to school lunch price increases. One of the things that we should be looking at every year is what the feds pay to the district for the federal subsidizing free and reduced meals, as well as what the public actually pays. And eventually, there has not actually been an edict issued yet of how long we have to sort of like close that gap. But I went to the Department of Education through the Bureau of Nutrition and said, okay, this is what we're proposing. And they said, ideally, if you were to be doing that 10 cent per lunch, it's fairly smooth, fairly easy for palatable for families. So they agreed with it. I just wanted to check with them before we went and jumped on it. So that is what we're proposing to do. And I'm looking for the school board to approve that change so that we can get that information out in the handbooks and give parents enough notice.
So who gets that extra money?
Actually, it goes to funding in the program. The food is still purchased.
Right.
And, you figure you're still spending $2.65 for the food. but for a student that receives the meal for free, the feds are actually paying for the cost of the food. So yes, it does
But I
come
mean,
in
the
on
people
as
that are paying it out
revenue.
of their pocket, I'm saying. Right now, we currently, they charge a certain amount for the lunch.
Mhm.
And it's a wash for us, because whatever they sell to the students, it doesn't cost us any more. So
Right.
is Cafe Services going to earn 10 cents a meal now,
No,
extra?
no, they're not. That's how they came up with their proposal, because they're anticipating that they're gonna have so many free meals or reduced meals to provide for students. But they still have to figure providing food for all of those students. So this is a subsidy.
Right.
So the
It's
question-
paying for the rest of paying for the food.
We're already getting the food though without the price increase. That's what I'm trying to say. Like the student right now currently pays whatever,
$2.25.
$2.25,
Yeah,
and they get lunch.
right.
Like I would give my student $2.25 and they would get lunch. So now you're gonna charge me $2.35, but they're still gonna get lunch.
Right.
So what's costing us more? Why are we paying the extra 10 cents?
Because
And who gets that
the
money?
the feds are paying us more than what the public is paying us.
Mhm.
So essentially, if the feds are giving us $2.65 a meal, they're actually also subsidizing students who are paying the full amount of the meal.
So what she's saying is we should be charging $2.65 a meal, the same as we're getting from
From
the
the
feds.
feds.
Right.
But to do that kind of an abrupt price change just really isn't.
So Cafe Services is eating the difference? Because we certainly don't kick it in as a district.
They did eat some of the difference
Yeah.
last year, they did.
So this,
So
would-
$11,000.
so that,
So they're running at a loss by charging only $2.35. Really? I don't know any businesses that do that on purpose. You know, that's weird.
I
So
would-
I wonder how our parents feel about that, because we're being asked to pretty much vote on increasing the cost for them to have lunch at the school. And I know, it sounds to me like you're saying we're required to do that, or we could lose our free lunch program.
I don't think you're at a loss of losing your free lunch program, but what you run the risk of is eventually the feds say, okay, you only have until January 2015 to bring your prices up, and now you're gonna have to bring them up
A lot.
to the federal, a lot. And so that's why I went to the state and did this, looking to do this in an incremental fashion.
So the federal government is telling us how much our hot lunch costs.
That they're giving us $2.65.
Right.
Because they're
That's-
giving us $2.65, they think that's what hot lunch costs.
That's, well, yes,
But Cafe
yes.
Service is saying that it really only costs them $2.35 to run their program.
I,
for the
actually,
kids who aren't
they've never come forward and provided lunch price recommendations. I've not found anything, they've not come up with a recommendation. They, last year,
we made them eat
$11,000 because the sales did not exist.
Because we were under contract, they overbilled us by $11,000, and we kicked it back, and they gave us a refund.
They reduced the amount that we owed them. See, so if that's the other piece of it, if the sales aren't there, if more kids are bringing lunch from home, I mean, that's nothing that they can control.
so it sounds like.
And
you-
it could happen to them even worse, because when we raise the price, more parents might just decide to.
Or if
back their
or if
own-
they don't provide a good lunch, a good balanced lunch.
I was amazed, to be honest with you, at the micromanagement of what we're supposed to serve. I mean, it is the most ridiculous and absurd. I don't know if people people probably see the minutes of, 1/2 cup, 1/3 cup. I mean, it's like, we have to substitute this as a healthy meal, and this for meat, and this is a healthy meal. It is absolutely absurd, that we can't figure out for ourselves how to provide a healthy lunch for our kids, that we have to come up with this micromanagement from the federal government. It actually, because of their micromanagement, it's probably going to cost more than it should for us to do what we need to do. And I just would say that, this is absolutely absurd.
It just sounds strange that the federal government is setting the price for the lunch that a private company is supplying to our district.
The doesn't sound strange.
All schools though.
No, I understand, just
Yeah.
because everybody does it doesn't mean it makes any sense.
This is what happens when the federal government gets involved in local issues. This is exactly what happens.
Would it be possible to vote on this after we have public input session, just so I could hear from some of the people in the audience? Just because I'd like to just know, I don't have a clue what people feel about this, but I would like a little bit of input if anybody's willing to chat. So I'll just make sure I move that, if it's okay with the board, if that's
Yeah.
also pleases the
wait.
board.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
It's still, it sounds like McCaffrey Services is getting that 10 cents though, right?
That's
That's what it sounds.
the question is, what is the 10 cents for? Would it come to the district?
It does come to the district,
As revenue.
that's correct. It is a revenue to the district. It just essentially means that Cafe Services doesn't have to reduce their contract by as much. So, for example, last year, they had to forego $11,000. Maybe it'll only be a $5,000 loss for them. So, but yes, it is our revenue to run the program. It decreases their losses.
It goes to them, is where it goes. They get the money.
I'm fine.
I'm just saying, they
It
get,
decreases their losses.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just
Well,
put
not
that,
really.
I'll put that.
Not really, because we're under contract with them for X amount of dollars, so we're not gonna pay anymore. We're still gonna pay the same amount. It comes in as revenue to us, right?
It's
So
our revenue,
if we
that's
take in
correct.
$10,000 and our contract says that we're gonna pay $9,000 for lunch next year, and it costs $11,000, we're still gonna pay $9,000,
That's right,
even though we took in 10.
that's correct.
So it's revenue for us.
Okay, so
So then
revenue
that
for
goes
back to the
us, so
town.
then why would we charge our parents that? Because we were.
Because the feds are gonna require us that we charge.
Because the fear is that the federal government's gonna come down and say, starting in January, you need to charge $265, or you're not gonna get your funding for lunch. So
We're gonna have-
incrementally is easier than,
Right.
that's the thought behind it.
Okay. So we'll move to principal's report then?
You're skipping all the financials.
Oh, no, we didn't, did we? We did the photocopy, but we did the program.
We do the financials. Well, she asked us any
Oh,
questions. on
right.
financials. No one had any questions on them.
Are there any questions on financials?
I didn't think so. I
I
thought.
didn't think so.
Yeah,
So I don't have any questions, I just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, she asked.
Okay, principal's report?
Well, for this report, I went through the board goals and basically took any of the goals that I was the lead person on and kind of basically did a report out of where we're at with some of the goals. The first was the music program, on some of the changes we made. And then to look at grading, the grading policy. And then the last one was about data and student achievement and so forth, and putting together a report and basically a calendar when I would present different data.
I just had a question, where would the money come from for the band stipend?
Well, I'm not making a proposal on that yet, it's kind of a hint. Maybe if we paid her a stipend, I mean, we'll discuss it more, make a formal proposal. If we paid her a stipend, a small stipend, even if we look at how many students, because she was only gonna be making $5 per student. So it wasn't a large amount of money that she was gonna be making. So if we paid her like a stipend out of extracurricular salaries, then she would be covered by our liability insurance.
All right.
We would nominate her as the band person, so. I haven't talked to her about that, I just kind of, as I was putting this together, I pulled out her proposal again and I remembered. So I just kind of thought of that, so I can slip that in, maybe we could think about that over the summer and then I would post it and talk to her about it.
And my only, I mean, I like the idea of, you know, as far as the music class, I mean, she goes to each grade. One grade she talks about studying Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera, which are two very good, they're musicals, I guess they're opera, I can consider them operas. I mean, it'd be nice to see something more classical, because those are both pretty modern productions. It'd be nice to see something, I mean, you know, Les Miserables has some great themes that certainly can be discussed. But it'd be nice to see something classical there, like
Well,
La Boheme or something, you know, more traditional.
she did do a whole unit on the master. She did, I did an observation in her class, and was it Mozart or Beethoven she was talking about, and they were doing a whole, and she was playing the music. So
Oh, great.
that's not all of it, it's just that
All right.
was kind of an introduction, because she did, I think she's doing something, she's singing the songs in the class, and then they were talking
Alright.
about it. She was gonna take them to see the movie, but after seeing the movie, it wasn't the Broadway show, so it was a
Right.
little bit too much, she thought, so she didn't take them to see that.
Oh, yeah.
John, is this something, if we created a stipend position, it would have to be an employee of the district that applies for it, or could anybody apply for it?
Anybody can apply for it.
And they would be covered under our insurance?
If I brought them as a nomination forward, I guess, I mean, I haven't really done a lot of, as I was typing this, I thought, so I kind of put that in there, so I believe
On
that.
the payroll, if
They
they're
would
on the
be the pay-
payroll,
Yep.
yes, and they would be covered under our liability insurance.
This is someone who's not currently on our payroll. So, and would this be more than, I assume that as a stipend, this would only be a few hours a week then?
Right, it would be an after-school program. And then as I ended it, I kind of put some information about School Digger on there, because we do get a lot of information about School Digger. That comes because that's kind of the default that people go to, and I did get a question from a parent asking about it, because that went out in the, I guess it was some form that went out during budget season to show that that our achievement went down and so forth on School Digger. School Diggers, like I said, is just one snapshot, and you can manipulate data, and if you just change it to middle school, we go from whatever the ranking was to 48,
Right.
which was really good. I thought it was surprising. I
That's very
didn't.
good, yeah.
I've never found this on School Digger. I don't know if it's new, or I just never found it before, that we were ranked as a middle school as well. And this is once again, it's only 7th and 8th grade scores.
Right.
But what's nice about this is that, if you think of it, we have them till 8th grade. If the scores are like this in 3rd or 4th grade, by the time they're getting to 8th grade, they're leaving at 48th in the state, which is higher than many of our local
Yes,
schools.
it is.
So,
Excellent.
but I'm just putting that, it's data that you hear a lot. I'm still not saying School Digger is the way to go just because I found some good data. It's just that, I'm not changing my mind. School Digger, it's just that is,
But we'll take it.
yeah, well, but we do get that presented to us a lot at budget committee meetings and so forth, so I just thought I'd give you more information out there if people are discussing it.
I think the problem is, some of it's the fact that we have a very strong middle school math program. I mean, historically, if you look around the state, kids do better early on, and they tend to do worse as they go into middle school, and we're just the opposite. Our kids do better as they go to middle school on the math test.
Statewide, there's a 10% drop
Yeah.
from like 3rd grade, 4th grade
Yeah.
in test scores. This is some data I heard a while ago, but to 7th and 8th grade, except for in Vermont, so maybe we have a lot of descendants from Vermont.
Maybe we do.
They don't know why, but Vermont didn't have that, but the other people taking the NECAP had 10% drop.
Now, the only question I had, I don't know where I saw this, so I apologize to everybody. But what is IndyStar Steps to Success? That was mentioned somewhere in the...
IndyStar Steps to Success was actually a program that was developed for the school improvement grants that were distributed a couple of years ago. And what it is, it's a program that is designed to track 96 indicators on a monthly basis or even a bi-weekly basis if necessary. So it basically is a project management tool, and you take the goals that you established in your grant, or sometimes it's used for Title I programs as well. You take the goals that you establish in your grant, and then you track implementation over the year. And you have to report out on such things like whether your goal is still in progress. If it's still in progress, what do you have left to accomplish? If it's accomplished, what evidence do you have to prove that it's accomplished? And I did that for Milton for 2 years, and I'm still.
And you
here,
loved
so
it, right?
I loved it.
Can you Google it? Can you Google that? Can you start? 'Cause I meant
It's
to try
you
and
need a
Google it.
password and you have to be.
They don't even have an outline of what it is. You can't even get like, oh, it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's only authorized users are given passwords. And
Right.
trust me, it's not something you wanna look at, it's,
Unless you're forced to.
unless you're forced.
Right.
And I like the idea of what you did, John, for the schedule, for the data.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great to see that on a regular schedule like that. That's good. I'm glad we are getting to that point.
Yes, that was excellent. You know, so we know what to expect. We just want to make sure it's on our agenda at the proper time.
And we presented all that data, you know, here and there.
Yes.
It's just that
Absolutely.
sometimes if there were like large agendas, we pushed it and this, that. So this way now we kind of, it'll keep us on track with it.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for John?
Thank you.
The enrollment report.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions at the elementary or high school? We're holding steady at the elementary school at 443, and we're at 227 at the high school. But we need to take note that 5 of them are on alternative learning plans.
So, yeah, so it looks like we are holding steady.
Yes, we are.
So we're not gaining, that's good.
But actually, we have a new student coming in tomorrow,
Well,
Mr. Connor's class,
yep.
so.
Special education.
Sarah sends her regrets. She had a symphony rehearsal. And so if you have any questions, I can try and answer them in her report.
What do you have?
Yes, it follows the enrollment. And she did include a nice comparison of brain injury versus ADHD versus a learning disability. That's helpful.
Did anybody have any questions on Sarah's presentation?
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to the building report.
Mr. Brown did attempt to answer your question, Andy.
Oh, yes, I saw that, yeah.
Hitting degree days.
Right. Yeah, all I'm looking for is, wondering if he can, if it's worth it for him to just keep track of degree days so we can really monitor our oil usage from year to year, that's all I'm asking.
Okay, so,
So if we do, if we did replace one of the boilers, we could actually tell if we were actually saving. It's the only way to know if you're actually saving money, by comparing degree days from one year to the next. The other thing too is I'm really amazed with the efficiency of all the boilers. He's done a good job
yes, he has.
maintaining them,
Mhm.
so I think that was great.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown? Regarding his report? Okay, technology report. Sounds like you guys did the scan, right?
Yeah, we did the scan, we're gonna do some remediation tomorrow.
Good.
And I did ask, was it the last meeting about, what infrastructure we would need to go to, I don't know if they're gonna be working on that or not, I mean, obviously, we don't do this report soon, but what kind of infrastructure we would need to go to, you know, online books, online, what do you call those books?
Textbooks.
Textbooks, yes.
So you're looking for the infrastructure?
Yeah, what kind of, what infrastructure will we need to get to that point? Because like 10 years from now, I won't be surprised that you couldn't buy published textbooks.
Well,
I mean-
we said that we were gonna talk about it at the tech meeting
Okay,
and see, because that's not part of the tech plan.
right, so,
And that, the tech plan goes out 3 years, I think,
right,
from this
Right.
year.
right,
Right. So it could be something we look at for our long-term
right,
topic, I guess,
Mhm.
discussion.
right.
And probably Jason would know
I'm sure-
what's out there as far as what's being talked about in conferences and things.
So I know, because Epping just reached that, and it was pretty expensive. I mean, they really had to remodel, redo everything to get to that point.
Eppington?
Yeah, yeah, they did. My concern, is- I mean, my concern, like I said, 10 years from now, that may be the only way to get textbooks, is download them. I mean, that's the way things are going, and it's cheaper for the publishers, they'd rather go that way. So we just have to be prepared for that.
Did they go iPads or were they full computers, do you know?
They didn't go iPads, they went with, like we have with their,
Thin clients?
yeah, thin clients, but they had to update their server and everything else like that to, in order to, and also they had to go with, their thin clients had to be such that they could hold the whole textbook, you know, in the sense you could see the whole thing, you know, as a.
Like
as
the
a-
handbook or anything
Yeah, like it
else?
was displayed,
Yep.
you know, so that was the other challenge they had, but.
Well, Peter
Gilligan?
Gilligan used to be who's the tech director up there, was a member of our tech
Right,
committee.
that's what I was talking.
So maybe we
to.
can ask him to come
Yeah.
visit us, tell us about it, or we can take a
Mhm.
visit up there.
All right, or we talk to the tech committee or something.
Yep.
Do you think that's most appropriate?
I know Wyndham High School did it, when they built that new school, every child got a tablet. I don't know if it was an iPad or a tablet, but it was definitely a tablet type device that they were handed, and that's how they do all their textbooks now. But that's state of the art, everything in that school, you know, brand new,
Right.
so. But we'll definitely bring that as our long-term, I'm on the tech committee, so.
Yeah, I also want to know what it would look like, and I'm not saying we have to go there, just what it would look
We'll make a nice presentation for you,
like. It sure will.
okay?
Extraordinary. I will be sitting here, my jaw will be dropped.
Okay. So now it's public input
Moving
time.
on.
Does anybody have any input on the lunch money program specifically? And then if anybody is signed on to want to speak this evening also, I
Do you
can.
need it?
I can speak to the lunch if you want, both my. So both of my children purchase lunch actually on a daily basis almost. And one of my children has some special dietary needs. And so they've been really good at working, we do pay full price, and they've been really good at working with us with the special dietary needs and so forth. Kind of coming at it both from a parent's perspective and then also as a business person's perspective, I guess. Parents' perspective, 10 cents a day is not a tremendous increase. If it was going to improve the cost of the lunch, and quality of the product, things like that, I think that that would be fine. Or if it was indeed an increase to cost to the school district, I'd be fine with paying it. If it was to offset and be a profit center or, you know, a profit generator, then I don't see the cause for it. It would be interesting to see what Cafe Services cost is per meal. We've never really asked them that. They've never really come back to us and said, this is what the cost per meal is. So therefore, we may be supplementing something that we really don't need to supplement at all. So that would be my big question there, if you will, unless there's gonna be improvement on it, I don't see where. And I understand about the step increases versus a one-time increase, but at the same aspect is, if we don't need to, then maybe it would be just as well received. I'd rather pay the increase when it's truly due versus pay it in step increases if it's not benefiting anything. So that's just one parent's input.
And, I need to, two kids also who purchase lunch sporadically, they bring lunch more often than not, but, I agree with what Angela said. I guess I wasn't fully understanding, I think the federal government is Cafe Services getting the $265 per lunch from the federal government? So they're getting $265 and we're paying $225. So I agree, I would be interested to know really what their costs are, because that just seems a little bit off, and to just raise the price arbitrarily without really understanding what their costs are, but in terms of, it's not gonna change my pattern of purchasing lunch, or my children's pattern of purchasing lunch, but that's my perspective.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Lori, is there a deadline to have to do that vote, or could we get some feedback back from Cafe
Absolutely.
Services on cost per
Yeah.
meal?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm also in the process of soliciting the bid for next year
Okay.
and getting that bid document done. I gotta get it done by Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's also part of it too, as they come up with their proposal, what their costs are. So definitely, it's not an issue to go and table this
Okay.
until June. Period. And
Okay.
then parents have the summer at least to see it on the website.
And I think one of the key issue here is not so much what the cost is what, how the federal government might respond to what we're charging.
Mhm.
And that's the key issue, is that it's not, it doesn't really matter what it costs Cafe Services, I mean, per meal. It's a matter of the Fed saying, we're paying $265, and if someone doesn't need a specialized lunch, they need to pay $265.
That's essentially where we're envisioning,
Yeah.
the Bureau of Nutrition envisions us going, that the
Right.
feds are paying more than what you charge the public. So the feds look at it that, well, we're actually supplementing your program. So,
Right,
but
right.
I'll get some numbers,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
Do that for the next meeting.
And did you want to speak on anything else, Angela? Because I
Yes.
saw your check mark here.
I did, thank you. I usually do, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
So I had a few things, actually. The first one was about the budget breakdown. When we had the meeting on April 23rd, we did say that for this meeting, there was gonna be a budget breakdown of how the incremental funding was spread out across the budget. So that was kind of, I thought, as a next step, that was gonna be covered at this meeting.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
So,
we're going to do
must
it
have
at the
missed
next
that.
meeting.
okay,
I think is what we
Yes.
agreed to.
Yeah.
okay,
Yes, we did.
okay, I just want to follow up with that.
Mhm. I think
Then
that got
another,
lost in the minutes.
okay,
I think it did, because at least for me, I was taking it from a sequential point of view. I couldn't provide you with a cost breakdown until I had the social studies
and that
teacher
makes sense.
approved. So I guess, so my apologies, but we'll get it for you for the next time.
Okay, no, and that's great, and I honestly, I think that that's where I was almost thinking, well, that must have been approved if you already had the breakdown and so forth, or not approved, you know, so that's where I was thinking, so that was part of my question, so, no, that's very good. Then the other thing is, since you had mentioned the social studies teacher, I just feel very compelled to mention, to speak about that, since I was one of the people who was in that group of folks, and I was the one who stood up and spoke at the meeting to vote in the additional money. So I know that, as Andy had pointed out, there wasn't a huge number there. There was 90-some people. But the 90-some people who were there, the majority of them are very dedicated, very involved, and are really passionate about it. And that's why they were there, and that's why they did vote that. Everyone has an opportunity to come out and vote. Votes were made on, voting day, and different things were decided there, but at that deliberative session, the people who did feel that compelled to do that were there and did vote that in. The other thing I wanted to mention about the social studies teacher is that I really trust the school board and the administration to make the best decision for whoever that instructor will be. I've never experienced this, which I'm glad to say, nor do I expect it, that teachers are going to teach to the standards of subject of whatever the class is, and they're going to do so well, and if not, I trust administration to address that. And if there are things that are brought up that are outside the scope of the standards of the class, I also expect the teachers and administration to teach to acceptance and tolerance as well. So I just think that that needs to be said as well. And then my last question, if you will, was on the non-public section of the meetings. I know that Ms. Lango, you had mentioned 91-A3, and I did go, actually that night, because I wasn't working, I was on vacation that school week. So I went and I looked that up, and I looked at what the kind of outlines were for what they were, and I just had a few questions about that. Because one of the areas I know was about the sand, I have asked a few times, and other people have as well, about the Sanborn, and I know that there's contract discussions going on, and I don't see it in the comments again or the agenda, so I'm assuming that that's still taking place. But it also detailed out a few things I had questions on. One was that all discussions held and decisions made during non-public session shall be confined to the matter set out in the motion. So I know lots of times it says we're going to go into non-public session, but we never know what you're talking about, I feel. So I was wondering if that's something that should be, you know, so then we know you're addressing Sanborn as an
Yeah, it's
example.
usually on the agenda.
Okay, is it?
If
Yeah,
you look
like
under
it-
the non-public,
Okay,
so tonight we're going to be discussing resignations,
Okay.
correction to an extracurricular stipend, our attorney correspondence, a student request, and discussion of the tuition contract.
okay, my apologies then, I misunderstood, I missed that. So I was thinking it was gonna be a little bit more detailed, I guess, but maybe because it's non-public, it's not, okay, very good. The other question then was about the minutes of the meetings. Something else that I had read is that they would be publicly disclosed within 72 hours of the meeting unless recorded 2/3 not to. And that it seems like, and this may be also a misunderstanding, so just looking for clarification, it seems that in most cases, the non-public minutes are sealed for a year and then they're released. It doesn't sound like legally they need to be sealed for that long, or they have to be sealed for that long. In most cases, it sounds like they don't need to be, or they shouldn't be, or there's many other times they can't be. It seems like that's maybe a default that's used. So I'm wondering if that should maybe be looked at or revised.
When we vote to seal the minutes, yeah, we have a lot of them that are unsealed,
Okay.
and they are available. Usually when we vote to seal the minutes, it's in regards to a student, their reputation, and so that's why we generally seal them for a year.
Okay.
But I can't remember anything else that we've sealed that wasn't a
Well,
student.
if it's contract related and we know it's gonna take a while, and we don't want somebody seeing that information that could benefit from it and hurt us in a contract negotiation, then we will seal them for a year. And we better hope that it's long enough, you know?
Right.
We can reseal them as well. And we can always go back and unseal the minutes that we've sealed if we feel that it's safe enough to do it then, because it won't jeopardize our contract negotiations, things like that. But when we're not sure how long we need it for, we say a year, just to be safe.
Where are they posted then, for the ones that are unsealed, if you
It
will?
should be on the website.
Are they posted
Once we
separately?
remove them, yeah.
Are they
I don't post
posted
them.
separately?
No, they're mixed in. It says
Oh,
not
yeah,
public
like
and
it's
public.
like, okay.
And it has its by date.
Okay, it's only, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And that's where, because you kind of directed me to go look at this, and I was trying to understand and so forth, because I was gonna ask again about Sanborn, and I see it's not on the agenda and so forth, so that's kind of what led me to mention this evening.
Is there a, like, key out there that says, you know, there's 10 meetings that still sealed for the next 5 months or 3 months or?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I mean, we could make one if that would make people feel better. That's
I just didn't know, because I know when I started on the board, I didn't know what, I have an idea now, because I've been here for a year, but when I started, I never knew what was out there, what was left sealed, what was not sealed.
I wonder, Yvonne must keep a tickler file, right?
Mhm.
I would think, she's the one who kind of releases them as they come
Right.
past that date. Yes, Bridget?
Couldn't you put on the ones that you unseal, that if there are elements still sealed at the bottom, there are 3 topics that are still sealed for this amount of time?
We've never broken it down that way, we've just sealed the minutes.
We try very hard to keep it separate so that if it's personnel, that's one non-public. If it's students, that's a separate one.
Okay.
But I can talk with her and we can set up a matrix to say the minutes of X date are sealed for a
Until,
year.
yeah,
until-
yeah.
If that would be helpful.
I just think to understand a lot of the historical that's been going on and to understand kind of where we are. Like, I've been curious about the Sanborn, the past, the current, the future, things like that. And I think for people who are involved and want to understand it and so forth, it might be helpful.
And believe me, sometimes we're just anxious to let people know what's going on, you know, because we feel you guys should know, we can't because of the rules, but, I mean, one thing, if you notice about the way this school board conducts its business and other school boards in the past have, is in the past, if you read the minutes, they're going in and out of confidential meetings constantly. I mean, they'd be talking, they go in, and they come out, and they go in, they come out, and that practice has stopped, you know, so now we set aside a time to do our non-public sessions, which I think is a lot more efficient, and I think it's you know, I think it's a better way to conduct business. So I think that is one thing that this school board has been doing, I think that's been good.
Thank you. Sue, did you want to say something?
Most of what I wanted to say kind of has been covered, but I did want to say thank you for being a history teacher. I know I have a second grader who's reading everything he can get his hands on about the Revolutionary War and a bunch of famous Americans, so I'm excited that I can go home and tell him that that's approved. I'll be excited to hear about what's happening with the rest of the funds that were approved, and I hope that, you know, to Angela's point that it was a small group, I feel like the people that were there were very engaged and informed, and also tried to ask for the minimum that they felt was really needed to keep the school going in the direction that we all want the school to be going in. So I hope that, you know, we were very judicious in that request. And I'll be interested to see as that music curriculum gets developed, kind of see how that trickles down in the classroom. I think I have kind of observed some changes just in seeing my kindergartner versus what his brother went through, so, you know, that's a positive. I hadn't seen the website, musicteacher.com. I'm not sure if something went home on that, or...
So if you look on her website, it's
Oh.
running really slow today. tonight.
That's okay, I can pull it
If you
out.
go
I didn't know if
underneath
there had
the
been like a
site.
notice that went home if we needed like a password or anything like
Nope.
that, so. Because I don't think probably most parents, like I wouldn't have known to go to Mrs. Burns' website if, like I got the thing saying go to Everyday Math, and so we go to Everyday Math, but I didn't know, so there's probably people out there that maybe could take advantage of it then. And I was the parent who asked you about the school digger, because when I got the mailing, I wanted to be able to kind of put things in perspective, because I feel like sometimes things get skewed. So your email response was very helpful to kind of help understand and be able to educate people who sometimes want to take one number and put it out there as a complete picture and really need to put things in context. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Because I found the mouse was first.
There you
If you
go.
look under the website, go down here, they have them all listed.
Unsealed, gotcha.
Go to school board.
And you know what, I think.
Okay, so I wanted to take have the board make a motion to table the decision on increasing the lunch prices until next meeting, do you think?
June.
Oh, June's meeting?
Yeah, just do it in June.
June.
Okay,
First meeting in June?
so if I can get somebody to.
I motion
table.
to table the vote on the lunch price increase until the first school board meeting in June.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Policies. This is what we're doing next. We'll kind of run through these quickly like we usually do. Policy IFA, instructional needs of students with different talents. This was accepted already for a first reading, and we're asking the committee, we're asking the board. Oh,
No, the committee accepted it, and we're asking the board to do it.
I'm
first
sorry.
reading.
let me read this slowly. We don't have it in our policies at all. Okay. Okay, sorry. So we're recommending this to the board for first reading. It's been a long time since our last policy meeting.
I move that we accept the policy
IFA.
IFA for the first reading as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Policy IHBA, programs for pupils with disabilities. Our policy IHBA was adopted in July of 2007, right before the New Hampshire School Board Association released a newer version. The New Hampshire School Board Association also provided a procedural safeguards appendix to go along with this policy. The committee reviewed both policies and presents the newest version for a first reading.
That is the second one, right?
Yep, IHBA, programs for pupils with disabilities. And
I'll motion to adopt it as presented.
Something,
Anybody has changes?
any discussion on that?
wait a minute, we're going to look at this, because we got two IHBA. So you're talking, which one are you motioning for us to accept? The one,
The one that follows the
The first.
action sheet.
the one that follows the action sheet, okay.
Right, so
Not
it
the one
should,
that follows the one that follows the action sheet.
right, I just included
See what was-
Right.
the old one to show you.
So in both ones it says that it was, first reading was 5/20, okay. 5/14/13, okay, so we redid the first reading.
Right, and I think what you're confused about, it's not that it's a second policy,
Right,
that is the procedural safeguards.
right,
That is the attachment
right.
to that policy.
That's IHBA, right?
Correct.
Was that just in the, okay, because we've got two IHBA policies, one
In the packet.
in the packet, and one says it was a first reading 5/7/213, the other one says it's a first reading 5/14/213, so I don't know which one we're,
Really, they both should say 5/20.
I don't know which one we're voting
I
on.
think they're both the same.
They're the same, if you
Yeah.
look at it. The only difference is the date on the bottom.
All right, okay.
You're voting on
Which is gonna,
the policy showing the IHBA, it's the same thing.
I read them and it looked the same, just to make sure something I didn't
I
miss.
apologize. So,
I think it's just because the date got changed, Michelle, because we changed our meeting. I think that's why
Oh,
there's two
that-
in here.
All right, just
Yeah.
want to make sure it wasn't some like one word or something that
No.
was different that I didn't pick up on when I read it.
No. Any further discussion?
I'll change that for the second reading.
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
But that was to adopt.
I think we motioned to adopt it, Michelle,
Yeah, motion.
so you don't have to change it again.
It's over.
Okay, policy JLCB, immunization of students. Our original policy was adopted in 1994 and had our first reading in August of 2005. The New Hampshire School Board Association had an updated policy that our school nurses reviewed and updated. The committee presents it for a first reading.
Excuse me, one of the problems with it. Well, I motion to adopt it for first reading.
Accept it for first reading.
Except for first reading, yeah.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And just a word to the public before I go on to the next one. If you see something in some of these policies, the reason we usually do a multiple reading on something that is new especially is so that you have an opportunity to read it over too and come back maybe at the next meeting and let us know if there's something you might like to see different about some of them. So that's one of the reasons that we have these multiple readings. Policy JLCC, communicable diseases. Our original policy was first adopted in '94 and had a first reading in August of 2005. Did I just say this? New Hampshire School Board Association had an updated policy that our school nurses reviewed. This is, I swear I said the same thing. Am I? Yeah. Only this is communicable diseases.
Yeah.
And presents it for a first reading.
Now, this only has to do with head lice, this policy. So is this in addition to what we have, or because it's only specifically references head lice? It's not a general policy on communicable diseases.
That's correct. Because we already have a policy on physical examination of students.
Yes, we do.
You know, we have one on immunizations. I'm trying to think.
Because the only communicable disease this policy covers is head lice. So if it's another communicable disease, it's
I
covered
think
by another
there's-
policy?
There's an,
Can you check up?
I don't know.
Pull up the policies for me.
I mean, if someone, if someone were to come in with type A hepatitis, which is very infectious, do we have a policy that would cover how we would deal with that?
School board policies, I need the master list. So we have students chair. Keep going, that's out. Okay. Let me see.
Immunization, communicable diseases, medications, concussions.
We have one on administering medication, first aid in emergency medical care.
The old one included throat cultures, but this one only includes,
I mean, this is a policy on head lice. I mean, actually, if it's a policy on communicable disease, it would cover head lice.
Okay, so do you want to send it back to the committee for
Yeah,
review and
I
to
would.
include what?
I would like to just include communicable diseases in general. How do we deal with it
Statement,
when someone comes into school with a communicable disease? How do we deal with it? What are the steps that we take?
Okay.
And that can include, there's a whole number of them, from flu to that stomach thing that went around to norovirus to hepatitis A. I mean, there's all,
Okay.
someone comes in with salmonella that's highly contagious. So,
we'll relook at that as a committee. Okay, so there was is there a motion to send it back to committee?
I make a motion to send it back to the policy committee, policy JLCC.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, now we're on to accounts payable and payroll manifest.
Would you pass me the folder and I'll just give you the highlights? Maybe. manifest 13-32 is for $960,506.62, with a payment for $907,717 going to Sanborn, which pretty much makes up most of the manifest. And manifest 1333 is for $151,786.94. We have 59,000 going to an outplacement. NRT is for 33,000. And those are the biggest ticketing we have. Some therapy cafe services, 17,000. And oil for 19,000. Those are your big ticket items. I motion to approve the manifest as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, budget transfers.
Sorry.
Any questions on the budget transfers?
Motion to approve the transfers for $13,996 as presented.
Second.
No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, just one quick question. Sorry about, oh, okay, no, we're actually transferring money, sorry about that. It's too late now, already over that, but I'm gonna ask my question anyway. We transferred money from fuel oil to new equipment, so does that mean that the fuel oil came in under budget?
What he did was he's filled up the tank as full
All
and
right.
does not feel that he's gonna need any more.
Oh, good.
So he's taking that $2,200 and gonna move it over to security.
All right.
So, yes.
So now we need to enter non-public for a second time this evening for RSA 91A3, Section 1.
Can you take a 5-minute recess before I can vote?
Sure. We're going to recess for 5 minutes and we'll be back.
It's going through
So we're back in public session, out of non-public for RSA 91A31, where we motioned to accept with regret a couple of resignations. I can say who, right? We approved stipends for Michaela Eichen and Shauna Emery, and we approved nominations of Stephen Farnham as a long-term sub, as well as approved the cost sharing of the holiday premium. So now we must go into non-public session again for RSA 91A3, parentheses 3, which is regarding a student request.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Raise aye.
Girardi, aye.
Katina, aye.
Kit, aye.
Oh, aye.
All right. Okay, so we're back in public session. And do we need to seal those minutes, Michelle, for now, until you've had time to?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna seal, I'd like to entertain a motion to seal the non-public minutes regarding the student request for 60 days? Okay.
I'll motion
Second.
All those in favor?
that.
Aye. And you need to take a roll call to go back into non-public session for RSA 91A5, Sanborn Regional School District tuition contract. So we'll do a roll call, please, to go into non-public. Oh, we'll motion first and then,
So moved.
Second.
thank you. Roll call.
Raise aye.
Girardi, aye.
Keen, aye.
Kit, aye.
Oh, aye.
We're exhausted.
I'm gonna call it. Okay, we're back in
Good.
public session, and we were going to go back into non-public session to finish the evaluation of the superintendent, but it is late, and we will reschedule.
Tuesday? We're here Tuesday,
We're here Tuesday.
next week.
Right, we have policy, Tuesday the 28th is our normal
Right,
schedule,
We do policy at what time?
5:30.
5:30.
Can we do policy earlier? Because it's 8 or 9.
It's up to you.
We can
Well,
meet there
what about
earlier.
your schedule?
I
Did you want
don't
one?
have my schedule in front of me, but
You want one?
Yeah, I'll,
No.
I can do it earlier if you need.
What day are we looking at?
You know what, Sharon, you volunteered to write the, type in the comments, are you sure you have time to do that?
Yeah. All right, time.
So that way, those will all be in order, and we can kind of look at them as a group, and
Yeah.
it'll save us time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon,
Thanks
if you
very
need any
much.
help, just give me a call, or I'm right around the corner, okay?
We're just waiting to reschedule.
okay, on the 28th, I could do it earlier if you wanted to do policy earlier. But then you two ladies would be here for a very long time too.
That's all right. So if we meet as a board at, do you think an hour? 5?
Was
I mean,
an hour,
if we did
was
an
an
hour
hour.
and a half, I mean? Do you think at 5, if we meet as a board at 5, and then you and I can do policy at 4:30?
Yeah, I think that would work.
5 is the earliest I can. do
Five,
that
I
one.
think 5 would be good.
The latest I can get here is
Okay.
9 o'clock.
All right.
5.
And we need
How long do you think we need for policy?
a good 45 minutes.
Okay, so 4?
4.
The next
I
week's,
should put it on my calendar before my calendars.
I
Oh,
worked in for the
third, 28th, we're meeting at 5 o'clock.
all right. My son has a physical that day at 2:30.
So we'll have to have that workshop posted to Michelle by Yvonne, that will be in here from, as a board, from, in non-public from 5 to 6:30.
That might be an issue because my son has a physical
Oh.
at 2:30. So I'll be in Wilmington, Mass. at 2:30. I don't know if I'll be done by 3 to get here by 4.
What do you want to do?
Can we meet that morning? Do either of you have time in the morning that day?
Yeah.
I do.
Because I don't have anything right now in the morning, I mean, other than work, but I can work from home in between.
Yep, you just tell me the time.
What works for you,
And
Michelle?
Michelle.
Yeah, I'm free that morning. So just pick a
So-
time.
What time are you, 9?
Want to do 9 o'clock?
Sure.
Okay. And the non-public, you want to begin at 5?
At 5,
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll be sending out another board packet, hopefully by Thursday.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How did you
Well, Yvonne's on vacation, is that the deal?
She's back now, she went to DC with the kids.
How did she like it?
She liked it, they really had.
I saw some of the pictures of it.
Yeah. They had a good time.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
can I ask a question before we come out on the payroll? How come there's checks for like $150? There's like 2 checks for some people and the second checks are low.
Probably because it's there an additional stipend. I guess I'd have to see the names,
All right.
because I have questioned that as well.
What did I notice? Okay. So like here,
We're in public session now.
Yeah, that's why they're not saying names.
That's
Right.
that's her wire for direct deposit to a different account. That's what I-
oh, so it's not 2 checks?
No, it's not.
It's just going to a separate.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Wait, why is it listed twice?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.